Dear Prime Minister Trudeau, Honorable Chrystia Freeland, and Honorable Kent Heer, we are calling on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland to take a public stand against Israel's inhumane siege and blockade of the Gaza Strip and the humanitarian catastrophe that has resulted, and publicly condemn Israel for the recent crimes it has committed against the protests in Gaza. We call on the Government of Canada to make a continued stand for the enforcement of UN Resolution 194 that states all refugees must be allowed to return and compensated for the damages suffered, and hold Israel accountable for the ongoing violations of this resolution and numerous international laws it violates with impunity at the expenses of millions of Palestinian lives. So far, only 2 Canadian political leaders have had the moral courage to make a formal statement regarding the protests going on in Gaza. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP party, and Elizabeth May, leader of the Green Party. Why has the government been silent on Israeli crimes against humanity and the gross violations of Palestinian human rights? Why have you not condemned the Israeli government for the grotesque attack on peaceful protesters who are demonstrating on their land, risking their lives in a shooting gallery for Israeli snipers? We call on you to show moral leadership on international human rights, defend the Palestinian right to resist their oppressors and occupiers, the right to full and equal human rights, the right to return to their homes, and an end to Israel's horrifying siege and blockade of Gaza. We urge you to treat Israel as any other country that violates human rights and impose sanctions against Israel immediately. On March 30th, the people of Gaza organized a peaceful march they call the Great March of Return. The protest marked the 42nd anniversary of Land Day. On March 30th, 1976, 6 unarmed Palestinian citizens were killed by Israeli forces during protests against the Israeli government's decision to steal and occupy the majority of Palestinian land. The people of Gaza were very clear that this March of Return was going to be peaceful and that they would head to the barrier between the Gaza Strip and Israel to set up camp for the next 46 days. They would camp until May 15th, which marks the anniversary of the Nakba, where 15,000 Palestinians were killed and at least 750,000 Palestinians were forced to flee to neighboring countries as refugees, for Israel destroyed their homes and carried out upwards of 70 massacres. Those 750,000 people and their descendants are still refugees to this day. There are now approximately 5 million Palestinian refugees living in 59 UN-registered refugee camps, including the camps in the West Bank and Gaza. 70% of Gaza's population, or about 1.4 million people, have been refugees since 1948, awaiting 70 years to return to their homes. Israel responded to this March of Return with 100 soldiers armed with sniper rifles lined up at the border between Gaza and Israel with the orders, shoot to kill. So they have shot and killed children, media personnel, and even paramedics, all of whom were peaceful and posed no threat to Israel whatsoever. On Twitter, the Israeli military posted this exact quote: "Yesterday we saw 30,000 people. We arrived and prepared with precise reinforcements. Nothing was carried out uncontrolled. Everything was accurate and measured, and we know where every bullet landed." On Friday, March 30th, Israeli snipers shot and killed 21 protesters and wounded over 1,400, half of them with live ammunition. The snipers have aimed at their heads, knees, legs, and genitals. So far, 37 have been killed, 15,000 people have been shot, 72 critically injured, and over 4,200 people have been injured. March 30th is now being referred to as the Passover Massacre. How are we to support our government if you refuse to acknowledge the crimes Israel is committing? We would like to see a public statement from our Prime Minister and Foreign Minister condemning Israel for their indefensible crimes against the Palestinian people. We trust that you, Mr. Heer, and Liberal MP from Calgary will deliver this letter to the Prime Minister. Sincerely, Justice for Palestinians, Calgary.